Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we are doing a massive comparison. We are comparing a two-door Wrangler to a four-door Wrangler and a Rubicon 392 with the Xtreme Recon package to a regular Rubicon. So there's just a lot of different comparisons in today's video. And so with that being said, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller, Dodge Ram, Jeep Chrysler here in Provo for giving me some time with the Rubicon. Check out their inventory in the description down below. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link in the description to my car buying course. Let's get into the video. So let's start with talking about powertrains that are available with the Rubicon package. So we have the craziest powertrain on this side of things, which is a naturally aspirated 6.4 liter Hemi V8, goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's good for 470 horsepower and then 470 pound-feet of torque. You guys can see it's really just stuffed in there. Now, as for the regular Rubicon, quote-unquote regular Rubicon, you've got three powertrain options available. This particular one has the turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder, also goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it is good for 270 horsepower and then 295 pound-feet of torque. Now, another powertrain you can get with the Wrangler is a naturally aspirated V6. That one is good for 285 horsepower and then 260 pound-feet of torque. And then you can get the 4xe, which is this engine paired with a hybrid system, and that powertrain is good for 375 horsepower and then 470 pound-feet of torque. So, lots of powertrains. Here's what I have to say driving all of them, because I have driven all of them at this point. The turbo 2-liter is a great entry-level powertrain. It's got tons of torque and it just feels really solid. The V6 is great if you want to get the Xtreme Recon package, but you don't have the money to buy the 392. You can't get the Xtreme Recon with any other powertrain other than the V6 or the 392. And then the 4xe is great if you're okay with the regular Rubicon package and you want a Jeep that is fast, but then also is good with fuel consumption. And again, can't afford the 392, don't want the 392 because you don't want to have to deal with the gas mileage and all that kind of stuff, or can't find one. There's all sorts of reasons why you wouldn't want to go for the 392. And so that's kind of how I would rate it. So 2.0, best entry-level powertrain. The V6 is great if you're going to get the Xtreme Recon package. The 4xe is great if you want a fast Jeep that gets good fuel economy, and then the 392 is great if you want the craziest Wrangler ever produced that sounds amazing and has a crazy powertrain. So let's talk about some exterior elements and then capability as well. 10.8 inches of ground clearance with the regular 392, and then with the Xtreme Recon we have 12.9 inches of ground clearance, so quite a bit more. You guys can see there is a height difference with both of the Jeeps, right? The 392's a little bit taller, and you guys can see obviously a little bit higher up off the ground with the front end. Now, the next thing to mention is the standard Rubicon comes with this sport hood. It's got the cool venting, and then all of the logos are in red, and the accent pieces are all in red. Whereas on the 392, everything has this gold around it, and we have the water fording hood. It's the hydro hood. It's really cool. So this actually helps increase the amount that you can ford through, but this hood is extremely heavy. That's the only downside. Like, this hood is so heavy. Like, lifting this hood up, it's like a workout. That hood, lightweight, baby. If you get the reference, you get the reference. Anyways, LED lights are not standard on the Rubicon. I recommend adding that as an option, and the forward camera, especially if you're a serious off-roader. The LED lights help out with visibility and they make it look a whole lot better. If you don't plan on getting an aftermarket bumper, the steel bumper group is definitely worth going for. Both of these have solid front axles. That hasn't changed whatsoever. There is a difference with the tires. We have 17-inch wheels and 33s here on the regular Rubicon. On the Xtreme Recon, we have 17-inch wheels and 35s, and it is lifted 2.5 inches. So the extra height comes from the tires and from the lift. Now, the other difference is with the 392, you get Fox shocks. So similar to the Gladiator, actually, funny enough, you get Fox shocks. Whereas here, this doesn't have Fox shocks, and it actually is easier to see here in the rear rather than in the front. So you guys can see the regular Rubicon shocks. Now, as an owner of this 392 and having driven a regular Rubicon for a whole week, there is a slight difference with the shocks, but on road there's not as much of a difference as you would think. Off road, I'm sure that's where most of the difference comes into play. Now, the next thing I want to mention while we're here on the rear is actually axle ratios. So the regular Rubicon comes with a 410 rear end. the regular 392 comes with a 3.73 rear end, but with the Xtreme Recon package, it upgrades it to 4.56. So if you want the best rear end in the game, get the Xtreme Recon package. But if you want a really good rear end, you get a regular Rubicon actually over a regular 392, if that also makes sense. The other thing to mention in terms of differences, the Xtreme Recon package adds this like extension here onto the fender flares, which is kind of interesting. And then obviously, crazy aggressive exhaust tips as well, as you guys can see compared to the little exhaust tip you get out of the 2.0. And obviously, this thing sounds a whole lot crazier with the V8. And then you guys can see the size difference between the 4-door versus the 2-door. Now, from a driving perspective, what I've noticed, since the 4-door is a little bit longer, it's a little bit smoother compared to the 2-door, but the 2-door definitely has that sportier handling. And I guess that if I were to choose between one or the other, obviously I bought this 4-door, but what I'd have to say is if you're going to be a hardcore off-roader and you're not going to get the 392 because the 392 is not available in a 2-door, then I would recommend going for the 2-door because it's just going to be a little bit better, right? Especially with the breakover angle being a shorter wheelbase vehicle and all that, and you're just going to be able to fit into smaller places and everything. And if you don't need the back seat, it has back seats, but if you don't need that practicality, then it definitely will be worth it. And then obviously you can see the difference with the spare tires. We have the 33 here on the back, and then we have the reinforced tailgate with the 35 here for the Xtreme Recon package. But that is most of the exterior elements, and sorry about the lighting here, it's kind of horrible. I guess we'll open up this front door too. We'll just open up all the doors in the Jeeps. Okay, so popping here into the interiors of both the Jeeps, and actually we're gonna also open this up so you guys can see here with the storage space in the rear. So notice here at the 2-door, you have a pretty small storage space area behind the seats. So that is definitely something to take into consideration. If you want to use the rear storage area a lot, you might have to get a 4-door because, if you guys see, again, pretty small back there. I'll throw that down, close that up. If we pop over here to the 4-door, you can see it's significantly larger in terms of the storage space. Like you have a ton until you reach the seats, which is funny because the legroom in the back for the back passengers in the 2-door is actually pretty similar to the back passengers in the 4-door. So most of the extra room for the 4-door is actually for the storage space, funny enough. And also something to mention, side note, this is definitely heavier with the 35 to open and close compared to the 33 that you have here on the 2-door. And then obviously you only have one door since it's a 2-door. Notice again the red accenting. Like I said, that's part of the regular Rubicon package. So if you like red, then the Rubicon is going to give that to you. And there's also a difference with the steering wheel. You guys will see shortly, but here's the steering wheel in the regular Rubicon. And then you guys can see the rear seats. Like I said, legroom's not too bad. It's pretty similar to the 4-door. It's just hard getting back there, obviously, because it's a 2-door. So you have to move this seat. You have the little latch here you can pull. You got to move this seat to get to the rear. And the next thing to mention is you've got the driveline select. So notice you have two-wheel high. You have 4-wheel auto, 4-wheel high part-time, neutral, and then 4-wheel low here with the 2.0. Just kind of remember that before we go over to the 392. So close that up. And then here's a quick look. So again, with the gold stitching goes throughout. And then you guys can see again, like legroom looks pretty similar with this. You guys can see you got like a full outlet and all that fun stuff. But the important stuff is over here at the front end. So you can see the steering wheel, different. You've got this perforated leather here on the side that the regular Rubicon does not have. And then you have paddle shifters on the back end. And then obviously 392 on the seat, but the seats themselves are the same. So there's no difference with that. And then you can see there's a difference with the driveline. So we have 4-wheel high auto, 4-wheel high part-time, neutral, and 4-wheel low. No 2-wheel drive with the 392. So that is a big difference. If you like 2-wheel drive driving, don't get the 392. And then obviously you got the exhaust button with the 392, which is another nice feature. And then you can see kind of here at the interior, a little bit different. It doesn't have the red, it's just kind of darker in coloration. So there are some kind of key differences between both of them with the interiors. So now let's go over pricing with the different Rubicon packages and all that fun stuff. So starting with like a base model Rubicon, you're going to be somewhere in like the $40,000 range roughly. And then if you get like a middle of the line Rubicon, $50,000 roughly. And then a fully loaded Rubicon that doesn't have the Xtreme Recon package, around $60,000. If you add the Xtreme Recon package, then you're going to be somewhere in like the mid 60s if it's fully loaded, right? If you don't have it fully loaded, it'll be somewhere in the 50s typically is what I've seen in terms of vehicles that are actually built at dealerships. So you have a price range from, you know, $40,000 something for like a base model one with like cloth seats, doesn't have LED lights, doesn't have all like the nice gadgets and gizmos, and then a, you know, fully loaded one is going to be closer to the $60,000 or over $60,000 range. Now, as for the 392, you're going to start in the $70,000 range, and then if you have the Xtreme Recon package and make it fully loaded, $86,000 in terms of the pricing. So you're going to be anywhere from the 70s to like almost $90,000 for a 392. So, you know, in terms of the Rubicon itself, right, we have a price range, in terms of the powertrains, anywhere from like $40,000 all the way up to almost $90,000 for a fully loaded 392. So you're just going to have to figure out which one fits best within your budget. Now, this video is a little bit different in format in terms of what I normally do, and so we're actually going to cap things off with my personal recommendations in terms of what you should get. And I kind of mentioned this at the beginning when I went over the powertrains. So if you're just looking for a vehicle that is going to be cool to drive around, then getting a base model Rubicon with the 2.0 is going to be great because you're going to get good fuel economy. It'll be a great mall crawler, and I understand people mall crawl with these, so that's why I am mentioning that. Now, if you want to upgrade and have a little bit more off-road capability, like you're planning on off-roading it all the time, the Xtreme Recon package is the route to go. Having the 35s, having the extra ground clearance, having the upgraded gearing is 100% worth it. There's people that spend so much money to basically put those upgrades on their Jeep, and so getting it from the manufacturer to where everything's covered under warranty is worth it in my personal opinion. Now, where does the 392 sit in my personal opinion? It's obviously a crazy Jeep, and since they're discontinuing the engine in the near future, I think the values are going to skyrocket. And so I suppose if you're looking for something that is either going to hold its value extremely well, better than a regular Wrangler, or potentially go up in value, that's where the 392 comes into play. And then with the Xtreme Recon package, it's amazing off-road. If you want a mall crawler 392, then the regular one's going to be great. It's still an amazing off-road vehicle, but having the 373 gears is not ideal for crawling, whereas the 4.56 axle ratio you get with the Xtreme Recon package definitely brings things up quite a bit. So again, to quickly summarize, mall crawler, base model Rubicon with the 2.0. If you want a really good crawler, V6 Xtreme Recon. If you want a really good, you know, in between where you're going to mall crawl with it and do some off-roading, the 4xe is actually amazing. I took that off-road, it did amazing, and then it was a good daily driver as well. If you want a crazy vehicle that's going to hold its value, it's going to be tons of fun, 392. And if you're actually going to off-road with your 392, get the Xtreme Recon package. That's going to sum things up for today's video. Hopefully that helped you out if you're looking to shop for a Wrangler Rubicon. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Jeep Chrysler here in Provo for giving me some time with the Rubicon. I can't talk today. You know what? I'm just going to leave that in because it is what it is. Check out the inventory in the description down below. I will see all of you guys in the next video.